Hello and welcome back. Today we are going to be discussing averages. And before we actually go into the mathematics of averages and all that, we're first going to try to understand the concept behind averages and why they are important and, just have a general idea, a concept about what averages are. And for that, we are going to be using cakes. Okay, hopefully this is going to be a piece of cake to actually understand. Now, let's say you're given 3 pieces of cake. So let's say this is the first one. This is, let's say, the second one, and this is the third piece of cake. Now, originally they were all part of a single piece, a single cake, right? A whole cake. Now, originally that cake weighed, let's say, 2,000 grams. Now, 2,000 grams is also just equal to 2 kilograms, which is a nice weight for a cake to have, right? Now, let's say that the person who was assigned to, cut out the pieces of cakes, did a really nice job of cutting out 8 pieces of cake. Now he or she tried their best to cut out equal 8 pieces, but you actually just, you have this like feeling, like your cake, that your piece is actually smaller or bigger than the rest. So you just actually wanted to know what your piece of cake actually weighed. Now, one way you can actually do this is by actually just saying that, okay, so the original cake actually weighed 2,000 grams. Now, 2,000 grams, we know that 2,000 grams is just equal to 2 kilograms. So if we have 2,000 grams on the numerator and then we just divide that with the pieces of cakes that we have, we can get the weight of one piece of cake. Now, when you actually do this, it comes out to be equal to 250 grams. Now, you might be tempted to say that, okay, so my piece of cake actually weighs 250 grams, but no, this is actually going to be called as the average weight, okay? Now, average weight is actually somewhat different from what we call as the actual or exact weight of, let's say, your piece of cake, right? So the actual weight of your piece of cake is going to be approximately equal to 250 grams, but it is not going to be equal to 250 grams. It might be if the person who actually just tried their best, I'm not saying anything about the person, but even though they tried their best, because we are all humans, we make mistakes. If he accidentally perfectly cut out the cake, okay, so then, in fact, the actual weight is going to be equal to the average weight, but not in this case, because when you actually weigh your own cake, it turns out to be equal to 260 grams. Now, you, in fact, are going to be obviously happy about that because you got 10 grams more than the average person. But that also means that somebody else got a smaller piece of cake. So the other person who saw you weighing your own cake, on a piece of scale, on an actual weighing machine, now he or she actually wants to know what their weight, what their piece of cake actually weighs. So they come out and they weigh their cake and it turns out that their cake weighs 240 grams. Now obviously they're not going to be happy about that. This is 10 grams less than the average weight, which is 250 grams. Now the person who was assigned to cut out the cake, now he actually comes out with his own piece of cake and it turns out that even his piece of cake is 5 grams less than the average, 245 grams. So basically everyone decides that, okay, so he or she did their best, but, because we're all humans, we can't actually have exactly 250 grams. It isn't exactly equal, but everyone's happy at the end of the day. Okay, 5 grams, 10 grams, that doesn't actually count that much. Okay, so now that we know the difference between average weights and actual weights, okay, now let's actually go through the definition of average. And one term that you're going to be going through, it's actually going to come across you when you're actually studying, is the term arithmetic mean. Now, I want you to know that arithmetic mean is actually just, in fact, average is just equal to arithmetic mean, okay? Both of these are the same thing. And if you understand average, you're going to be, you're going to know what arithmetic mean is, in fact. And the way you actually calculate average is by using this thing that you see on the screen. Okay, so this is the formula that you use to find out the average. Now, n in this case is actually going to be the pieces of cakes that we have, right? Now, previously we had 8 pieces of cake. So the way we found out the average was we had the entire cake, which was the sum of the weights of the 8 pieces of cakes in the numerator, okay? We had that, and then we divided that with the 8 pieces of cakes that we have, so that we could get the average weight of a single piece of cake. Okay? So this is how you are going to be going about using the average formula. Okay, so let's actually go ahead and actually apply this on an actual example. So let's say that another person, they made a cake, and it came out to be equal to 3,000 grams, which is equal to 3 kilograms. Now, let's say that the person assigned to cut out the cake actually decided to have 10 pieces of cakes. Now, what is going to be the average weight of a cake? Okay. Now again, I'm just asking about the average. We're just going to be discussing the average. We don't want to know the exact weight. We just want to know the average weight. Now again, the way you find out average of anything is by having the culmination, right? We have the cake, which is the original cake, which weighs 3,000 grams. That is going to be coming inside the numerator. And in the denominator, we are just going to have the 10 pieces of cakes that we had, okay? So solving this, we find out that the average cake over here weighs around 300 grams. Okay. So again, this is not going to be equal to the exact weight. This is going to be the average weight. The exact weight is approximately going to be equal to 300 grams. Okay. Of the 10 pieces. Moving on to the second example. Now let's say that another cake, there like a lot of people are making cakes in this video. So let's say that there is another person making a cake, and they cut their cake into 4 equal pieces. They tried their best. Now, let's say that in this case we are given the exact weights, okay, of the 4 pieces. Let's say that the first piece of actually weighs 220 grams. The second piece weighs 260 grams. The third piece weighs 280 grams, and let's say the fourth one weighs 240 grams. Now, what we want to find out is the average weight. Now, the way you're going to be doing this is by having all of the exact weights added together in the numerator, and then all of that being divided by the pieces of cakes that we have, 4 in this case. Okay? So let's actually go ahead and solve this part first of all. So 220 added to 260, that gives us 480. And 280 plus 240, that gives us about approximately 520. Okay? Now let's actually go ahead and solve this one. Now you can always pause and do the entire thing yourself, and then resume the video, and we will both go through the example together. Okay? So 480 added to 520, that gives us 1,000. So 1,000 divided by 4, when you actually go through it, it comes out to be equal to 250 grams. Okay? So again, this is going to be the average weight. And as you can see, the average weight, like the individual exact weights, like 220, 260, 280, and 240, are approximately equal to 250 grams. Now they're a little bit like off. Some are like really off, like 280 and 220. But then again, they're really close to 250 grams. Okay? So that's the difference, and that is all from my side. Thank you for watching, and I really, really hope you learned something.